Alrighty, well, this is Kenneth Bryan again here at Intimate Body Art Studios. I'm in the process of working on a piece that I guess was started maybe 3 years ago. And you know how things happen, you know, life tends to happen, and sometimes you don't get back in as quickly as you want to complete some tattoo work. Good thing about tattoos is the old ink doesn't go anywhere. So when you get back to it, it's still there waiting on you to finish it up. So it's just a little bit of biomechanical stuff. We had gotten some line work done, and that's pretty much all we had at that point. So I just banged out a little bit of the black shading, and now we're starting into it with some color. Now, neither one of us remembers exactly what the original piece was supposed to look like. So we're just kind of winging it on this and hoping and praying that it comes out all right.
So what do you got planned coming up at the next week?
He actually kind of got in here and caught me in between traveling. I just got back from the Erie tattoo convention. Managed to pick up a couple awards up there, you know what I mean? It was a pretty good time hanging out with a few friends that I don't get to see in other places and shows. So I got about a week left here at the shop, and then I'm back out traveling again. I will be at Phoenix Rising Tattoo from July 1st through the 6th in Ripley, West Virginia. I'm going to be out there working out of that shop for the big 4th of July festival that happens every year in Ripley. So, you know, hopefully we can go out there, have a good time. I've worked out there before. The gentleman that actually gave me my apprenticeship when I was a teenager works at that shop. So he was my I guess my anchor that allowed me to be able to keep coming back and forth through there. And you know, he had set it up the first time, and I guest spotted there and kind of got invited back. Yvette Chamberlain, and she owns the place, took over after her old man died, who, you know, Eric was actually the owner of the shop, and she took the business side of that over after he was gone and invited me back. So hopefully we can go up there and have a pretty good time and, you know, enjoy doing some cool work somewhere other than sitting here in Glenside. Have you noticed every time you're filming me, I gotta work in some ridiculous blue?
Yeah.
I don't know. Always this messy blue that I have to be working with when you're over here filming. Some of the stuff is a pain in the butt to use, but when you do it right, it looks really cool, so you can't really avoid it. Sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do to make it look good. That's a good question, because again, we don't really remember exactly what the original looked like, so I just figured this looked kind of like a wave, even though it wasn't. So we just went with what seemed appropriate at the time, and blue seems like it'll work, so that's what we're going with. Use a few different shades of blue, maybe, you know, highlight it out with some white or whatever. We're gonna spend a couple of hours on it, and you know, we'll see where it goes. The only issue that I have working in blue really isn't so much how hard it is to put in the skin or what it looks like afterwards. It's more the fact that more often than not, a blue is going to be a tougher color to wipe away than maybe some other colors that I could use. So it makes it a little bit more difficult to see, and I have to spend more time wiping than if it were just, say, black and gray, or we're using,
wipe it off, no problem.
Yeah, just a quick swipe and you're good. Okay, so I haven't completely finished unpacking from the last tattoo convention, so what I'm going to do right now is stand up and look over here at some potential inks just all lined up in a box that I have yet to unpack. See, this is organization skills at its finest. I think I'll go with some Intense Baby Blue to go along with my Morning Dew from Platinum Ink and Sky Blue from Prism. So basically I'm just mixing and matching as usual. Most of the pigments that I'm using on this have come from Cam Supply, because they sell both the Platinum Ink line and the Intense products. The baby blue just happened to be on top, so I grabbed it, and you know, I'm one of them people that don't think it matters really as much that I stick to one specific brand of pigment, because you know, every brand of ink is going to have a little different property, you know what I mean? And so I tend to mix and match them up, which again, when you're ordering through a company that carries more than one line of inks, makes it a lot easier when you don't have to go bouncing around to 20 different companies to get everything you need. So I tend to order through Cam Supply and make things easier on myself. Now what I do on some of these pigments are a lot thicker than others. And so as you can see with this one, it's a little thicker. Means it goes in nice and rich and really dense. But sometimes I'll actually give that a little drop of water, so it makes it a little easier to work, because it's such a concentrated, really vivid, really bright pigment anyway, that a couple of drops of water isn't going to hurt it. So I just throw a little distilled water in it on top, and that should thin it down a little bit and make it a little bit more workable. Secondarily, you know, sometimes you're working on a larger ink palette than what we have here, and by the time you make it to one of the colors that you've set up for yourself, it's already starting to get a little cakey on the top. I may actually throw a drop of water or two in it there too, just to make it a little easier to work with. They all have different properties.
Yeah.
You know, some of them are a little easier, a little harder to work with. Some of them stay a little longer. Some of them are, you know what I mean, a little more intense when you first see them.
Yeah.
Some of them, when they heal, actually stay as bold as just about what they were when you first put them in. Some of them mellow out on you.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, that's what has me ordering different stuff, you know, because you don't really use the same exact approach on every tattoo. At least I don't use the same exact approach on every tattoo. And so some things you're going to need different properties for than other ones. But those who really care whether or not their artist is being honest with them and isn't just telling them what they want to hear, a lot of times you'll find that those will be the customers that come back to me most frequently. Because they'll present some ideas and they're really looking for really solid feedback and, you know, just a different point of view from a different education level as it relates to tattoos. And they know that they will get that here in this shop. I'm using an 11 Magnum on this. This is an 11 flat mag, just a regular number 12 sharp needles on this. Color work, you know, I kind of wanted to lay those dots in kind of heavy,
Yeah.
or at least heavier than what I'm using my black and gray. And since there's so many little different angles and details I wanted to get to, I have the flat Magnum needle grouping so that I can kind of angle it, and if I need to, just use 2 or 3 needles in that one corner over there to get to some certain spots. Well, we use some kind of almost pastellier blues on the, I guess it's kind of like a wave. And so instead of just using your basic greens and your kind of Kelly greens and your lime greens and whatever, I think I'm gonna go in with some Hunter and some Seafoam and whatever and kind of maintain that pastel-y look, because I'm gonna go back in there and do some heavy highlighting with white to try to pop that forward. So when we get to some of the more backgrounded stuff, obviously the darker, denser colors tend to recess themselves back deeper. And what I'm hoping for is that it gives us a nice bit of dimension. So a little bit of Hunter green, a little bit of Seafoam green. Again, those are different companies. I do like the Intense Hunter green. Right now I just picked up the Fantasia Seafoam to try to offset that a little bit and give us some depth and some contrast between the two. But I'm not really mixing them in the cap, or I'm not mixing them beforehand or in the tube as much as I'm mixing them by layering them on the skin, which is a little different kind of thing than pre-mixing it to create a color and then using it. So you don't have as much of a problem with, you know, color separating out on you or anything. So it works for me. Right now I just want the ink to stay and for it to look cool, so. You can see some of these misguided techniques from the 1st through the 6th at Phoenix Rising Tattoo in Ripley, West Virginia. So if you guys are looking to be in a politically correct, family-friendly environment, a tattoo shop is probably not for you. Well, that's thrown us at the first hour, and we did manage to get in the Hunter and Seafoam. So now what I got to figure out is when we come back to it, I know I have a lot of white to knock out, so maybe we'll take the last, you know, 30-35 minutes and just devote that to white. I'd like to get behind here in some of the black areas and kind of go in with some darker color to see if we can pop that for it before we lay the white in. But we'll see what happens as we get back into it.